Carol, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I'm doing another installment in a series I have on my channel where I read like certain people. I've read like fictional characters, so Jess from Gilmore Girls and Spencer from Pretty Little Liars. And I've also read like real people, so like Olivia Rodrigo. I'll link all of those videos in the cards and the description box down below if you want to check them out. But basically how the series works is I'll pick 3 books that I see these people read, and I'll read it and see if I enjoy it or not. For this episode, I decided to go with someone I absolutely adore, and that is Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence is just so funny. So I decided to pick 2 books she has recommended and 1 book that she was just seen reading. If you don't know who Jennifer Lawrence is, she's very well known for her Hunger Games role where she played Katniss, her role in X-Men, and for following the Oscars. I love her so much. She fell while winning an Oscar. How iconic is that? Out of these 3, 2 of them sound amazing and I can't wait to get to them. So let's talk books. So the first book I'm going to be reading today is the Paparazzi book, Lunch Poems by Frank O'Hara. I'll put a picture here where she's seen reading it. Couple pictures actually, there are tons of different angles. She's actually holding it like this. This is a poetry collection and I'm always down to read poetry, but I feel like this poetry is kind of hard. Like I'm more into modern poetry and this one sounds a bit intellectual, so I'm kind of scared. So apparently this book talks about misunderstandings and the eternal questions of life, coexistence. It sounds super fun. I can't wait to get to it, and it's also extremely short, so I'll be able to finish this today. I just finished the first poem and I understand nothing. That's not a good sign. Kind of worried. We'll see how this goes. I just don't know how people do it. How can you read this book just for pure enjoyment? Because I understand nothing from it. I finished it. Did I understand anything that happened in this book? No. This poetry collection is really weird. There are so many here that are so hard to get through. They're so confusing, so complex, and then you get this poem which is called Poem. I'll put it on the screen so you can read it. And there's just like these random poems. I don't know how I feel about this. There's so many references that I have no idea what they're talking about, but if I were to search it up, I would spend like my whole life trying to understand this book. And these names can be like food, they can be people, they can be animals, cities, like I have no idea. See, like this one is called Corn Kind, and it says, but what of William Morris? What of You Million Worries? What of Beat Davis in An Evening with William Morris or The World of Samuel Greenberg? What of Hart Crane? What of Phonograph Records in Gin? If you understand this, please let me know in the comments, because I don't. I don't know how much to rate this. Props to you, Jennifer Lawrence, for reading this book. The other 2 books sound a lot easier to get through, so maybe I won't feel as dumb at the end of this video as I do now. Hopefully it will be better and I'll actually be able to give a review. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll read more and I'll get back to y'all soon. I'm back. Second book that we're going to be reading that Jennifer Lawrence has read. She has recommended in a website. I'll link the interview down below so you guys can check it out. But I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll put it here. I don't remember exactly what she said about it, but like you can read it. And the book we're going to be reading is We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I'm really excited to get to this because I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone. If you didn't know, I am studying psychology in college, and one of the books the teacher has requested us to read is actually this book. So when I saw that Jennifer Lawrence read it too, I was so excited and I obviously had to pick it. This is a very well-known movie as well. If you haven't heard of this story, it's about this teenager named Kevin who one day decides to shoot up his school, and we're following his mom. His mom is writing letters to her husband and telling what happened. The shooting has happened a year ago, and she's just letting us know what happened back then and how people are treating her now. It's very interesting as a psychology student to read this book. It is a deeper dive into a psychopath's mind, and that's always exciting. I'm really surprised Jennifer Lawrence decided to pick this book up. Like, I never imagined her reading this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought she would read like something a little lighter, but it's fun that she picked this up, and I think this will be my favorite book out of the 3 I'm going to be reading for this video. So without further ado, let's read. We need to talk about Kevin. The way this book is told is so incredible. It keeps you hooked until the end. You don't want to put this down. I read this all like one day, which is really impressive for such a hard story like this, for you to want to keep going and digesting all of this horrible information just to find out what happened. I love the writing style of this book. I don't want to say I love the story because obviously it's horrible, but as a psychology student, this was such an incredible insight, and I would recommend this to you if you're not triggered, because there are a lot of trigger warnings, so I do recommend you read the trigger warnings before you pick this book up. It's so interesting to see that Jennifer Lawrence has read this. I could never imagine her reading this, so that's something that's surprising. That's one of her favorite books. Like, I like thrillers, but I wouldn't say this is one of my favorites because it's so emotional and painful to get through. I wouldn't recommend this, be like, yeah, this is a recommendation. Like, it's so interesting that she recommends this to people. That's just so weird to me. It was fun to read this and see that she has this other side of her. I'm going to give this book 5 stars. It was really well done. It handled the topic with respect. It wasn't a mockery of school shootings. This was a lot easier to understand than the Lunch Poems, the other book I read. It's completely different than the other book. The language is different, the writing style is different. It's just, this reads more of like a normal novel. So I'm glad I could read this and really understand it and be able to give you a review and my full-on thoughts instead of being just like, yeah, I don't know what I read. So I'm really glad this happened, and I'm really glad she recommended this. I'm just so surprised that Jennifer Lawrence read this. So the 3rd book we're going to be reading hasn't arrived in the mail yet, so I think I might have to read it on my Kindle. And that book is another recommendation, one of her favorite books by one of my favorite authors. That's why I decided to pick it up, because I just love his work so much, and I really want to like that book too. I've read 3 of his books, and all 3 of them were faves. Hey everyone, I'm back with the final book we're going to be reading for this video. Now, I don't know if you remember, I said I needed to buy it on Kindle because I bought it and it didn't arrive in the mail, and I swear to God, not even one day after I bought it on my Kindle, this came in the mail. Now I have it, and this is what she had to say about it. Also, the book is Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters. And she said that when she moved to New York, these characters kept her company, and I can't wait to feel related to these characters. One of the reasons why I love his works are because of the characters. So I can't wait to get to this one and see what it's all about. I have no idea what this story follows because my copy that I have here doesn't have anything in the back. So we're just gonna go blind into it. This book I have here has Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters and say more an introduction. Now she's only talking about this one, so we're only going to be reading this story, and I'll read this after when I have time. It's only 74 pages long, which is great. So yeah, let's get to it. Oh my god, wait, this follows someone in the family from Franny and Zoe. That's so cool. I think it's so interesting that this book and Lunch Poems both focus on New York. in Manhattan, and it was just when she was moving into New York she read these books. I don't think that's like an accident. I think that like one of the reasons why these books turned out to be one of her favorites, because it kind of like fit into what was happening into her life the moment she read these, which is always fun. Okay, so we follow the story of this man who is going to his brother's wedding in New York, and Seymour, I don't know how to say this name, is actually the brother, which is fun. I love Jaden Salinger. Like, his stories are so captivating, even though they're talking about absolutely nothing. I just don't want to put it down. Okay, so I finished reading Rise High, The Roofing Carpenters, and I really enjoyed it. It's like all of the other works from Jaden Salinger I've read. It doesn't really follow a specific plot. Like, you don't even know what you're getting yourself into until you read it and find out what's happening. I really enjoyed my time reading it. I do want to read Seymour an introduction because I think it's going to talk about his chapters, but it's really big, so I don't want to read it now. But watch my wrap up because I'll definitely finish this by then, and then you can see my thoughts on it. I really enjoyed this. I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I just love his work so much. It just feels so real, and I love the characters. I feel connected to them, and I felt so happy that this related back into the Franny and Zoe world. That was just so fun. So I'm really glad she recommended this because I wanted to read this for a while now, and I'm glad she had it on her list. So now let's talk about my overall thoughts, what I think of her reading taste and the books I've read. So out of all the books I read, I think my favorite was probably this one because it's a lot happier than We Need to Talk About Kevin. So it goes J.D. Salinger, and then We Need to Talk About Kevin, and then lunch poems. From reading these books, I can tell her reading taste is really diverse. I do think one thing that's common in all of these 3 books is life. All the characters feel authentic. All the characters are going through their struggles. And I feel like reading this can make you feel less alone and just focus on another world instead of just having to face your own reality. So I do think she reads to escape the reality and to be able to be transported into another world. All of these felt like non-fiction books where they just felt really real with no magical elements at all. It was just reality all the way. So I think she's more of a grounded reader in a way, where she doesn't want to read books about fantasy and dystopian, like things she could never relate to. I really liked her reading taste. It's a bit more sophisticated than mine. Her books are a little harder to get through. They're a little denser and a little more classy. Like, if you think Olivia Rodrigo Olivia Rodrigo reads a lot lighter books and books that are like for young adults, and this one is more adult. And it's so weird to think that she reads denser books and heavier books because she just puts on this very fluffy personality, very funny personality, and for her to read these like really intense, it just shows that she has another side to her, which is always fun. And for Jennifer Lawrence, I think reading means relating, and I think reading means finding people to connect to in books, finding people to be friends with in books. I just had a great time with this video, and I'm so excited to keep going with this. Hopefully I'll be uploading one video like this every single week, which is great. And so yeah, let me know which character to do next. I would love to know, and if you've read any of these books, I would love to know too. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If yes, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below to be part of this wonderful family. I would love to have you here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!